Hi everyone, welcome to my channel Moviesnips. Today we're going to be trying to address a hypothetical scenario in which the capital forces of Panem wage conventional war against the United States military of today. Who would come out victorious? Let's look at this argument from a variety of angles. Throughout the Hunger Games franchise, we've witnessed the overly aggressive and exploitative maneuvers of the capital's Peacekeeper military force. Despite their intimidating presence, we don't really get a full sense of just how powerful this military force is. Some questions that come to mind are, how many active duty personnel does the capital have at its disposal? How many Peacekeeper military bases exist throughout the continent? And what are the full capabilities of the capital's conventional weapons arsenal? First, let's look at this argument in terms of manpower. According to the Hunger Games fandom, the entire population of Panem is estimated at a little over 4.5 million people, and that figure could even be as low as a mere 1.9 million people if you add up the known populations of the capital and its 12 districts. In contrast, the current population of the United States is estimated at north of 330 million people. The United States military consists of 1.4 million active duty personnel as well as about 700,000 reserve personnel, which adds up to about 2.2 million military personnel in total. Taking the lower estimate of Panem's total population into account, the total number of personnel affiliated with the U.S. military is greater than the entire population of Panem. So in terms of manpower, the U.S. military would absolutely dwarf Panem's military. Panem probably has no more than 50,000 peacekeepers at its disposal. Even when taking the higher population estimate into account, which is trivial in comparison. Next, let's look at the ground forces of Panem and compare them with those of the US military. We don't see much of the ground vehicles of the capital aside from the SJ-7 Peacekeeper assault transport that is used to deploy troops throughout Panem. The vehicle's windows are equipped with 70mm bulletproof glass, and its armor is resistant to high-caliber small arms fire and explosives up to a K5 rating. It can probably withstand shots from high-explosive incendiary rounds and even RPGs to some degree. Its VL design can protect passengers from detonations even if a detonation occurs beneath the vehicle, making it essentially bomb-proof. While these APCs are impressive, they don't really compare to the much more impressive array of ground vehicles that the US military has at its disposal. The most notable of these vehicles is the M1 Abrams battle tank with its 120mm main cannon and frontal armor which can measure over 2 feet in thickness. This tank is formidable not only in terms of its firepower and armor, but also in terms of how quickly it can move, with a top speed of 45 miles per hour and a range of 300 miles on a single tank of fuel. The U.S. military is currently in possession of around 8,000 of these bad boys. The U.S. military also makes use of the M142 HIMARS mobile rocket launcher platform, the M117 Guardian APC, and the THAAD mobile anti-ballistic missile defense platform, to give a few more examples. Unless we're missing something here, and the capital has more powerful ground vehicles in its arsenal, it's probably safe to say that Panem's ground forces would pose no threat to the far deadlier vehicles of the U.S. military. It is probable that the capital has military bases in close proximity to each of the districts from where it can mobilize ground forces if the need arises, but then again, the U.S. military has far larger bases throughout the country as well as in different corners of the globe. Throughout the franchise, we don't get any mention of the capital having a naval force of any kind. Panem probably doesn't need a navy since it faces no external threats from any remaining countries beyond its borders, and is likely by far the most technologically advanced regime still in existence at the time of the events of the original story. The U.S. military has access to a powerful fleet of aircraft carriers and guided missile cruisers equipped with Tomahawk missiles that can rain death and destruction on some of the coastal regions and key supply lines of Panem in a matter of minutes, even if they can't directly target the capital when parked off the west coast. Now let's look at the air power of Panem and compare it with that of the US military. The capital's fleet of hovercraft shown to us in the films look impressive and intimidating, no doubt. These hovercraft, as they're called in the series, are mostly manufactured in District 6, a district that is known for its transportation and vehicle production industries. These hovercraft are used by the capital for a variety of purposes, including transportation of both people and supplies, combat bombing runs, tracking down and recovering escaped prisoners, patrolling the far reaches of Panem, and also serve as a symbol of intimidation to deter any would-be insurgents or enemies of the capital. They're also fairly silent and presumably also have some kind of cloaking ability, as they seem to appear out of nowhere. It's uncertain as to what propulsion technology powers these hovercraft. It appears that they use some kind of anti-gravity technology or plasma fusion engines to remain airborne. Despite their advanced propulsion technology, we only see them engage in active combat one time in the entire series. This occurs when Katniss and her squad are surveying the damage done to the structures of District 8, and the capital's hovercraft bombers suddenly appear out of nowhere and begin to attack a hospital close to their position. It seems like the hovercrafts have to get really close to their targets to do any real damage. Katniss also manages to down two of them with a single well-placed explosive arrow shot, which doesn't say much for the hovercraft's defense mechanisms. They seem to lack sufficient armor or force fields of any kind. In comparison, let's look at the US Air Force's F-22 Raptor, which is arguably the most advanced air superiority fighter in existence today. This aircraft is truly a marvel and can cruise at over Mach 2 at altitudes of upwards of 60,000 feet. It can engage multiple air targets simultaneously from a safe distance and can be loaded out with more than 20 long-range missiles if need be. Its thrust vectoring technology gives the aircraft unreal maneuverability in the air-to-air battle space. Adding to this, the US Air Force has over 5,000 advanced combat and support aircraft at its disposal, and it is very unlikely that the same can be said of the capital's Air Force. Looking at this scenario from a perspective of who would win in a conventional war, it becomes clear that the capabilities of the capital's limited peacekeeping force don't come anywhere close to the much greater capabilities of the behemoth that is the US military. Of course, if you were to add nukes to the equation, it would change things up significantly, but even then, the United States has advanced missile defense systems that would mitigate this danger considerably. Also, we're also not looking at the scenario from the perspective of WMDs that could entail mutually assured destruction. We have to remember that the capital doesn't need a vast and overly powerful military in a world in which there is little resistance to its authority, and in a world which is more or less already in the Dark Ages. It employs a limited but necessary peacekeeping force that is not really designed to wage full-scale war against an external threat with advanced military capabilities, but rather to regulate and oppress an already cowed-down population which is largely defenseless and ignorant. But what are your thoughts on a hypothetical war scenario between the forces of the capital and the United States military? If you feel I missed anything or would like to add anything to this discussion, please feel free to comment down below. Please also remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe to my channel, and please check out my channel for more sci-fi lore videos.